If you've ever tried your hand at pottery, then you'll know how malleable clay is when it's wet, turning rock hard when it's dry. Clay soil is no different, and as our weather patterns become more extreme, this continual expansion and contraction poses a huge landslip risk along hundreds of miles of clay railway embankments. Urgent shoring up work on a vulnerable stretch between Eastleigh and Fareham will see the line there closed for 9 days. Here's our transport correspondent Paul Clifton.
Shoring up a steep-sided cutting with steel piles. We're close to Fareham Tunnel, built in 1841, now in need of large-scale repairs.
If we didn't do this particular piece of work, then we could have some, with the weather increase that we're having, big downpours of rain, and the cutting will wash away and we could have more landslips. We've got a lot of houses around here at the top of the cutting, and they'd start losing their gardens.
A short distance up the track, this happened 8 years ago, one of the biggest railway landslips ever seen in the south of England. It took 6 weeks to repair. Engineers had to build a 2-kilometre road across fields, bringing in 2,000 lorry loads of new material, replacing the soggy clay. The south of England has 600 miles of clay embankments like this, built by labourers with only shovels and wheelbarrows.
This cutting is a lot steeper than we would build in current standards, so what we're doing here is shallowing the cutting to make it more resilient to sort of the rainfall and the events that we see.
This line has always endured problems with its clay earthworks. They even built a 2-mile bypass to get round the Fareham Tunnel. It was called the Funtley Deviation. That closed in 1973. Today it is a footpath. This week, buses replace trains from Fareham Station.
What would be a 20-minute train journey turns into a 40-minute bus ride, so it's a case of having to plan more of my journey ahead and leave earlier.
I'm going to be an hour early for work because I have to get an earlier train to what I would have usually done at Fratton.
Today's my school prom, so that's an hour and 20 minutes extra just to get to where I'm going.
If that's what that takes, then that's what it takes.
The line should reopen on Monday.
And Paul joins me in the studio now. Paul, unstable embankments and landslips, they're clearly a growing risk, aren't they?
The climate is changing. We all know that. Warmer, hotter summers and more intense periods of winter rainfall. And those 600 miles of clay embankments aren't suited to that change. In summer, the clay dries out, it cracks, it desiccates, and then sudden rain fills those larger cracks with water, and eventually the clay can no longer hold the water and it slips away. That was on an embankment built by Victorian navvies, by navigators, the labourers of the day, and it's just not up to modern standards. Putting that right will take decades and it will cost billions of pounds at a point where money is in pretty short supply. And that line between Fareham and Eastleigh is one of the most pressing cases, as we can clearly see, anywhere in southern England.
OK, Paul, thank you. Now, today is the first day of the Henley Royal Regatta, which has brought some of the world's top rowers to the River Thames. For the first time in 3 years, there aren't any COVID restrictions. So, for traders in the town who are still trying to recover from the pandemic, the 6-day event is a vital opportunity for them to boost their income. Here's Sarah Loudon.
Well, attendance is already up on last year, but that wouldn't be hard because it was a much smaller event that took place in August. There were COVID restrictions in place and very few international rowers who were able to make it. Things are looking up this year. In fact, such is the demand from competitors both home and abroad, they're even putting on an extra day of racing.
Henley Regatta started